On the transformative power of emotions, energy, and empowerment, often overlooked yet essential for thriving families, my programs equip both parents and young people to master what they can control. Get your free guide, A Parent's Guide to Understanding and Addressing Bullying, at BeYourInfluence.love.
The Crystal Coach Show.
Welcome to Our Soul Whisper with Kathy Belmont and co-host Dr. Pat, a sacred space for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. At the heart of Our Soul Whisper is the sacred truth. When we pause and listen inward, the soul always speaks. This show offers a safe, empowering space where those whispers are heard, honored, and lovingly guided into full expression. Each episode invites you to be curious about yourself and the reality you're in, while gently reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. Let today's message settle in your heart. Maybe even journal about it. And if something resonates, peace, clarity, or insight, pass it along to someone whose soul might be calling for the same. Keep listening inward. Your soul knows the way. Our Soul Whisper starts now. Wow, everyone, I'm Dr. Pat. What a great show we've got for you today. Most incredible Kathy Belmont. Here's what I want to say about Kathy. When you take a look at your life's path and then you decide to do something about it, you show up in a way that you can help other people navigate the waters of life. That's what Kathy Belmont does. And right now, for those of you that are thinking, I really need some help navigating a bunch of things, you can find out more about Kathy at OurSoulWhisper.com. And today's episode is going to rock you because it is the thing that is so elusive for so many people. What helps you come back to yourself? What helps you come back to yourself? So today we're going to take a look at what those inner anchors are. What are some of the tools you could use? Cannot forget emotional support. And then how do we regulate all of this? You're driving down the road and all of a sudden you see something that triggers some sad memory. I had that happen to me today, and I was reminded of what it means to come back to yourself. As many of us mourn the loss of Dr. Jean Houston, somebody that personally touched my life, one of the key people in my life that helped me come back to myself. I didn't have Kathy Belmont at the time, but now you all do. Kathy, it's great to have you here. What a great episode.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Pat, and thank you for that wonderful and touching opener. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Dr. Jean Houston passed away recently, and when I first started this, I didn't have a clue about what I was doing or who I was or who I wanted to become. So today you're going to help us navigate the waters of finding ourselves again and then honoring ourselves. So let's talk about it. I mentioned inner anchors.
Mm-hmm.
What are they?
Yeah, there are those things that when we have those days where all we can do is get out of bed, stay in our pajamas, and just, it's those days where we have those low energy days. And it's those things that we can have top of mind to help us get us through those times, because we're going to have days where we're feeling great and energetic and grounded. And then all of a sudden, we can be taken out of that, maybe the next moment. And so I really wanted to talk about having this kit, this support system for yourself, top of mind, and actually where you can practice it every day. So where you get into those low moments when life just feels really hard, and we all know that place. Yeah. And it's having that support system for ourselves. And it's really want to talk about, I have some ideas that help me and really stimulated other creative ideas that I can use as well. And that's the intent for you. I want to give some ideas, but allow these to generate some of your own ideas about how you can create that own support for yourself. You know, those grounding and spiritual practices, having those people in your life or even your environment. You know, how can that ground you and bring peace and some sort of softness to your life when life just feels really tough sometimes. And we all have those emotions and those decisions we have to make that can be difficult. And so it's having that self-care ready to just help soothe us and know that everything, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And let's talk about them. You know, every day I started a ritual here since I moved back to New Jersey, a beautiful part of New Jersey. And, you know, the gardens out here is my best friend loves these iris. They're just beautiful. And so it doesn't matter what time of the morning it is when I get up, I feel compelled to at least go outside and walk and look. Now, is that something, would you refer to that as an anchor? Is that something that people could do? Because we don't even think to take time to even do that.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, it's when we look at the things in our lives, he actually was a great lead in because, you know, a lot of us maybe have these exercise regimes. You know, we get up, we do whatever for 60 minutes or we go walk or run or go to the gym. And there may be some days where the thought of 60 minutes is just not something you want to do that day. So give yourself a break and say, okay, I'm going to just give myself permission to go on that 5-minute walk or maybe walk around the block.
Yeah.
Or say you get up and you journal or you're a writer, you know, maybe you don't write that next chapter. Give yourself permission to write maybe a line or a word,
Yeah.
you know, or so the idea here is to take these moments of our everyday and to think about, okay, when my energy's low, how can I still do something but to be nice to myself at the same time? So it's taking that, it's giving ourselves permission to do something, but not so much pressure on ourselves. You know, last week I had to make the decision to kind of transition one of my 3 dogs. And they're all 17 years old. And of course, I know the time was coming. And so one of the things I did for myself was I knew that I wanted to transition them at home if that opportunity was available. And so I made arrangements for that. And I did that 6 months prior. And so when I was thinking about that, I thought, you know, when I do make that decision, when I do make this phone call, I know how I'm going to be. I'm going to be highly emotional. I'm not going to want to provide all these answers and information for this organization to kind of get me in the system. So it's preparing. And it also, as I was thinking, you know, throughout the week, it really allowed me that time to, even though I didn't have to say goodbye to Jake yet, I was allowed that processing of starting to say goodbye. I knew what to expect. I knew the process. I knew once I made that call what that was going to look like. And so that's what I'm talking about here, providing that support for yourself. And one of the other things that really made this such a beautiful experience was that I asked for a sign and I said, please let me know I'm making the right decision. And not more than an hour, I received that sign. It was very clear. And so that allowed the experience to be doubt-free, question-free. I was allowed to have my family and other dogs present. Such a beautiful experience. And to have his last meal be chicken. And so his last memories. And so that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Allow yourself that grace to say, I know how I get, I know how it's going to be, and support yourself in that way.
I think it's so important what you shared. What a beautiful moment that you shared. And I love the way you describe that, the process, because 17 years, did you say, Kathy?
Yeah, I had him
17.
since he was a puppy. I had him all
Wow.
17 years. Yes.
Wow. And it's
Mhm.
interesting you described that. Somebody asked me the other day, who knew Travis, my dog, if I would ever do the process I did again, I used, in my living room. This kind of almost the same thing. I didn't do the chicken thing, so I'll probably have to make an amends on that. But it was powerful, memorable, and honoring. And boy, it changes the energy of it, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, just the idea of knowing that I'm sure every animal doesn't enjoy going to the vet, just like we don't enjoy maybe going to the doctor sometimes. So
Mhm.
it's really being aware of that, how you want the experience, and just how you are in these moments. There's another great idea. It's kind of becoming aware, and it's like kind of creating this is how I get list, and it's really about, when I get emotional, this is what happens to me. I either shut down, I don't talk, or everything just seems like such a catastrophe. Or when you're overwhelmed, what happens? And so it's really being aware of that and saying, okay, so when I get in these modes, this is what happens, and this is how I'm going to take care of myself. So it takes
Mm.
away that self-judgment, and it's also communicating with those around you so they
Mhm.
know. So I can say, okay, I'm feeling really tired right now, or I'm feeling really hungry. And
Mhm.
so the people in my life know, okay, Kathy needs to eat right now, or she just needs to go be by herself.
Yeah.
And so it just makes the process easier for yourself as well as others involved because they know. They know. And
Yeah.
that's where spiritual life coaching really comes in too, because it really helps you get to what is it that's important to me? What do I need in those moments? And you clarify that for yourself. And it could also be where, okay, well, I used to do this 10 years ago, but it's really, I think I should be doing it, but it's just not working anymore. What's working for you right now, and what do you need? And
Yeah.
so it's really getting that support and you getting clarity on what do I need in those moments and how can I create that support for myself when I need it most.
Yeah. I love what we're talking about here today because, we started the episode, talking about what helps you come back to yourself. And what a beautiful story to help us, navigate through this because it doesn't matter what we do. I started something here that I've never done before. I mean, here, okay, I'm going to share this on air because it's so unlikely for me. But there'll be a point in the day, I'm on a different time schedule, right? I still get up early here, but there's a point in the day I just have to go into the master bedroom, sit in a very comfortable chair, and just sit. And I've never done that.
Mm.
I've never done that.
Hmm.
Why? One, because you feel guilty about taking that time out.
Hmm.
And yet, your body, your heart, and your soul really appreciates it. So, for you, what are some of the other things that we can do? Because I think environment is so significant and important in this whole equation. And yet, people say, I'm kind of stuck where I'm stuck, Kathy. But
Hmm.
honestly, we can change that up, can't we?
We can. You found that spot in your master bedroom, that chair, and it must be it sounds like it's a very safe space. And that's what
Yeah.
we can do. We can create these spaces for ourselves. Is there a place in your home or that you can make for you to go and feel comfortable to sit down? It's having things available. I learned a long time ago to have on my phone these beautiful pictures of things that I can look at to make me feel good. I have a Kathy's favorite playlist they're all upbeat songs, reminders of who I am and what can be once I ride this roller coaster of emotions or whatever I'm on. I love my coffee in the morning and I love tea in the afternoon. It's those things. And I sit down, and when I need a moment, I sit with my tea, I have a chocolate chip cookie, and I like to play my games. And so
Exactly.
and it just, I mean, it's very simple, and it doesn't have to be so, downer, but it can be moments of, okay, I just did something really big, or
Yeah.
I just really need to rest right now. And we can all take 5, 10 minutes throughout our day to do that. It's really just making that decision.
Yeah.
We can really carve it out. And so we're trying to find peace within ourselves, yet our environment may not be conducive to that. What phone notification can you turn off?
Yeah, like
Things
my
like that.
mailbox is always full. That's my latest trick, by the way. I just
Yeah,
can't keep up with it. And,
yeah,
half of it is spam, but I decided to keep
yeah.
my mailbox full because the people that
Hmm.
need to get me can text me or they know how
Sure,
to get me.
sure.
But I would never have thought to do that. That's people would look,
Yeah.
my business coach looks at me and said, "Your mailbox is full." I said, "Yes, I know." They said, "Why is your mailbox full?" Because I want my mailbox full. Well, what if you, that's not a good business practice. And I just said to him, it is for me for now,
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
now. Um,
Yeah.
but part of this, can I ask you this when you say what helps you come back to yourself? We have to recognize that we deserve this. We deserve
We
to
do.
really take the time.
We
And
do.
I think your coaching helps people get there because we're not always there.
No, it's reminding us that ourselves that we're worth it, you
Yeah.
know. And it's it's getting out of that comfort zone and saying, I want to try something new. I want to have a new conversation. We think we know how it's going to go. A lot of times sometimes we do, a lot of times I can say I don't. I'm always pleasantly surprised sometimes when I kind of jump in and I let go of what I think it's going to be like, or yeah, let's take time from you. Let's create that space. But until you actually get there and you sit down and you have someone on the other
Mm.
side in total presence, creating that space of safety where you can say what you need to say without filtering it, and going from 5 high energy to 1 to whoo, okay, I can really release here. And it's amazing what you can do in an hour.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you can get clarity on. It may be one awareness, but I think we all need to remember how those awarenesses can change our life
Yeah.
completely. We're making totally different decisions out of that. And even if we're not ready to make that decision, we are aware. We're starting to think about things. Things are starting to churn. What are those things, maybe those struggles, those hard days that we're like, I don't want to go through this again. What is this about? It's getting the clarity to do that.
Yeah.
And there's other things that you can do. What I do is I record messages in my voice to myself. So I am affirmations, and I'm also getting ready to put down, look at all that you've accomplished,
Yes.
or messages that I want to hear when I'm in those moments. Or Kathy, I hear you.
Yeah.
You need to cry, go ahead and cry. And so hearing
Mm.
that from your own voice, you know, I'm going to say in that moment, it's your higher self speaking to you. It's those, you're giving something to yourself, just an idea. So it really, for me, it's very soothing, and I can go back to that. And it's something I always have available to when I need it.
Mm.
It's having, just reminding yourself what are those difficult moments that you passed through? What was that difficult emotion? What was that big decision you made? What was that big test you passed that you were,
Yeah.
worrying about for 6 months? You did it. You passed, and look where you are.
Yeah.
And so what about that
Huh.
difficult conversation that you were just dreading? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And you went in, and it was all okay. And I'm going to venture to say that, again, having these tools available to us and even practicing them on a regular basis, I think makes those hard moments just a little bit softer, because we know we have the support and we have the backup to say, okay, I'm not totally alone here. I can do this hard thing and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. And part of this, I was listening to a speaker the other day, and you talk about this too, and what helps you come back to yourself. I was listening to a speaker the other day who said, very spiritual person. Many of you out there, I know you can't sit down and do a gratitude list. So let's put the gratitude list on the side. Why don't you get up in the morning and list what you've done, your accomplishments? And I thought, my God, that's so brilliant. So is that part of it, to be able to take a look? Because we talk about bucket lists, right? I have a friend that's got 1,000 bucket list items, and I'm like, okay, you better get on it, girlfriend. But part of this is we don't look at what we've done so far. Is that a helpful thing to do?
Oh my gosh, most definitely. Yeah. And that's another thing to remind yourself of. How far have you come? I shared this story before, but it always comes back to me. Emotionally, when I was young, I had a lot of stuff to work out. And I can remember my brother or sister would talk to me and I would just start crying. Or I would have to face something and I would shut down. And I look back to how I have those same conversations. Now, we're all different people, we're all evolving and growing. But I'm having those same conversations, even some of the tougher situations, and I'm reacting totally different.
No kidding.
Not to say that releasing and crying, I'm not saying that, but emotionally I wasn't able to hang on. And so when I watch how I become more emotionally intelligent, knowing that emotions are simply waves, they're going through you. And if you can just allow yourself that 5 minutes or however long to say, I'm going to get mad, I'm going to get PO'd, I'm going to complain that I don't want to do this right now, have your little tantrum and allow yourself to release some of that energy and give yourself some acknowledgement for saying, yeah, this really just is not fun right now.
Yeah.
And then and then go into these tools and say, okay, what can support me? But let's not forget the acknowledgement part. Let's not forget ways to release that however you need to release. A lot of times, the Taylor Swift song comes to mind, Shake It Off, but it's really true. Go outside and just move around, release it, physically release. It's amazing what just some deep breaths can do. So, it's so simple, small things we can do that really tells your body, okay, it's safe enough to go here now. We can do that. Yeah. And so, acknowledging ourselves for what we've done and how far we've come, it's so important.
One of the things I want to touch upon is, once upon a time, I used to think I could do it all alone, until the day I recalled that I couldn't. And that was the day I decided not to drink and not to use anymore. And that was the first time in my life that I realized, girlfriend, this is not something you're going to be able to do by yourself. And I want to take a minute to talk about support, because you are a spiritual coach who has built an entire foundation for people to get some help and support, because I don't know about you, but I don't see clearly when it comes to me sometimes. So talk about support and what you do to help people, Kathy.
What I do is I allow you to get clear on whatever you're bringing to the table, to get clear about what's there for you and what it is that you want to accomplish for yourself in not only that day, which is just as important in that hour. What do you want to long-term go to? And I'm not talking about these kind of goals that maybe come to mind, but what's important to you in your life. And it's a relationship. It's another support to say, I have a spiritual life coach that I can meet with every week or every other week. And I know through that experience, I'm going to get back in touch with that part of myself. It's never lost, but it's getting back in touch. I bring that presence and that total focus on what you want to accomplish in that session. Has nothing to do with me. And through my training and through my questions and through things that I pick up on, I do my best to partner with you to get you there. And I get so filled with joy when someone says, "Oh my gosh, I just never saw that before."
Yeah.
And I get that feeling. And, you know, I made a decision to take a career and jump into this 100%. And, you know, I have my days where I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I keep going, because when I say I'm a spiritual life coach and I'm an integration to wholeness facilitator, I feel so much joy. That enough brings me into a place where I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
And so I'm creating that space. I want that. If people want that for themselves, that's what I bring to the table.
And it's powerful, Kathy. People don't know this, but we actually prepare for these shows. Okay. You prepare a beautiful outline, and then I go through it and I look at it. And I did something last night based on what we're talking about today. One of the things you said to do was, before you go in, now this is me going to compete, before you go in, sit in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that last night. And I took a minute, I read through what you did, and I reflected. But I took that minute. I didn't pull the car over, run in, put on my seat. I took, I don't know, maybe like 5 minutes or so, maybe. And I had the best playing night I ever had. So thank you for that. And that's just one thing we're sharing about here today. But there's something about that that allows us to remember who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that what you're talking about? Kathy, thank you so much today. How do people work with you? What do you want to leave us with today?
I just want to leave everyone with, when we have those difficult times, we have to make those difficult decisions. When our energy is low, build this compassion kit for yourself, and know that it can be very simple. Even if all you can think about is taking a breath, know that you can bring the simple into the seemingly not simple.
Yeah.
And so you can reach me at oursoulwhisper.com. You can also email me at oursoulwhisper@gmail.com. And I would love to work with you and to find out what is important to you at this time in your life, and what is it that you really want to bring into your life that would bring you the joy to live each day to your fullest.
I want to thank you for this episode. You know, friend and colleague, Dr. Jean Houston, I reflected today based on what you put together for the episode. And I realized what Dr. Jean Houston did. I was one of the first people in her first ever leadership conference. And I remember the support I got from her. I will miss her, but it's also a reminder to get back to myself, my vision, my passion, my mission, and to do it in the spirit by which this started. I want to thank you for all of that, Kathy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you, Dr. Pat.
Yeah. And to all of you out there, I know you think you could do it yourself. I know with enough adrenaline, you think you can lift that car up. But on every given day, ask yourself, do you really want to struggle that hard? None of us do this alone. Please reach out to Kathy. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Our Soul Whisper with Kathy and Dr. Pat. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Take a moment now to breathe in and reflect on today's message. If it brought you peace, clarity, or insight, let it settle in your heart and maybe even journal about it. Remember to like and share this episode with someone who's ready to listen within. May our soulful echoes ripple outward, awakening awareness and deep remembrance. If this show touched something within you, share it. Let's create a world where most of us pause, listen inward, and allow our light to shine. Visit OurSoulWhisper.com for more.